So, babe, I was on Facebook and I was reading a post. It was a mother's post. It was a repost, and it was talking about women, well, mothers in particular, saying that I'm overwhelmed, I'm not angry. And for me, when I thought about that, I said, wow, that like, that's true. That's true. Like, that's like something that as a man I need to hear, and I'm sure other fathers and things like that, they need to hear, because oftentimes in parenting, men and women do things a whole lot differently than, like, the way I may do something, the way you may do something may be different than how I'm interpreting it. So when I saw that, I said, I think that's a good topic, and just to discuss that as parents, we all need to know, like, it would be good to know, like, hearing from more mothers saying, hey, I'm overwhelmed, I'm not angry, because knowing that, I'm going to approach the situation differently than as if you are angry. Because if you're angry, I'm going to feel like there's something I need to fix. If you're overwhelmed, I'm going to feel like, oh, I need help.
Right. So, based off of the nature of that post, I think that just hits home, because we just recently experienced a situation where we were standing in the kitchen and I walked up to James and I said, babe, I am overwhelmed. I need a break from you, the dog, and the kids. Okay? That's what I said verbatim. And at the end of that statement, after I heard how it came out, that is, I said, it doesn't have anything to do with you personally. I'm just overwhelmed overall and I need a break. Can you send me somewhere for 12 hours? That's what I said. And I think that in that situation, like, for myself, I recognize, like, kudos to me for communicating that I was overwhelmed, but maybe backtrack and check how I delivered it, because when I look back on the situation, I recognize that my delivery could have been offensive. It could have been just flat out rude. Like, I don't know how he took it in that moment, but when I thought about the situation, I recognized, I probably should have delivered that a little bit differently. But James, being the man that he is, he jumped right in to alleviate my feelings. And he backtracked to how what I said affected him. One thing I can acknowledge and that I appreciate is that James always makes sure that I'm good. I have told him 10,000 times, you don't have to be Superman. Let me know how you feel. I didn't know that I had offended you until like 2 days later. Like, he didn't say anything. He just jumped right in and started, making changes and, telling me, chill out, stop doing this. I got that to give me time to, like, rebuild myself, because I had overexerted and was just burnt out. Okay, these boys is too close in age. Okay.
And I mean, I feel like as parents, one, if you have children under 5, more than one, your life is a circus. I mean, every day. Like, as a dad, we get burned out. As a mother, y'all get burned out. And that's just, I think that, but one thing is like learning the communication. Because like you just said, so in that moment when Bree told me, oh, I'm overwhelmed, I'm this, I'm like, the energy I got was like, what are you so mad about? Like, why are you so mad? Like, what do you got to be mad about? Like, first it was, why are you so mad? What happened? Well, what you got to be mad about? Now I'm getting mad. I'm like, what you mad about? You mad about life? What you mad at? Like, it's like the overwhelm was
out the window.
It wasn't even it was anger. Yeah. And like I said, I think for men and women, and especially, well, parents, is that communicating, men are more black and white. Like, we're not, if the color is blue, we're not going to say it's sky blue. We're not going to say it's turquoise. We're not going to say it's a heaven blue.
Baby
blue. But we're not going to say none of that. It's blue. So for us, if, like you said, I know it's like I'm overwhelmed, but the overwhelm is kind of gray.
Broad.
It's like, overwhelm is like salmon, where we need pink. Like, is it pink or red? And it's like, overwhelm isn't really definable. So overwhelm just gets pushed with anger, if that's what I'm saying. So it's like, as a man, I think it's important for women to say, like, I'm overwhelmed, I'm not angry. And it's okay to admit that, because it's like, oh, well, if I know you're overwhelmed, not angry, my approach is going to be helpful. I'm not going to take it as like,
what did I do wrong?
You're angry. Yeah. What do we need to fix? Why is this? What I do wrong?
But you know what I think would be helpful for women as a whole, like collectively, is if we had an inside scoop, an inside look of a man's brain, because you know, there's so many different scenarios and circumstances and situations that happen in life. And I think women know baseline that men are fixers. So naturally, with me saying I'm overwhelmed, my mind as a woman would go to you being a mind reader and knowing how to fix it. If I'm being transparent, like, fix it. But you know, having put myself in your shoes, I recognize how broad that is. What do you want me to do about that? You know, you're walking around here mad, sweating, changing your clothes and stuff, but you are not expressing your need. So it sounds to me like what you're saying, what men need is for women to be black and white with expressing their needs as it pertains to the household. Because like I said, I'm used to my routine. You know, I want the boys to match every day. I want to wake them up. I want me to be the first person they see. I want to hug them. I want to kiss them. I want to help them brush their teeth.
See, this is the big thing. This is the big thing. And this is what I think it is. I think it's that men understand that men and women both get frustrated with the kids. Like, we both get burnt out, tired, exhausted, wears down. But men, when we get frustrated with the kids, our energy goes towards the kids. So it's like, if they're not listening, no toys, no TV, sit in your room, you in time. I mean, however you discipline your children, men project it to the children. Like, we won't let, regardless of what age they are, we won't let it get to a point where they got us frustrated. Like, we're gonna get frustrated, but we're not gonna say, oh, he's 2. We're gonna say, 2 upstairs in your room now, sit down, look at the wall. Like I said, however you discipline. And I think how women do it is I'm not gonna say it's not discipline, but I'm gonna say that
we give them chance after chance after chance.
But I think that frustration that you have with your children starts going towards your spouse, and it's like, well, it could come off as you not doing this, which you don't do that, but I know, like, I've heard of women who do that, and then it's like, well, you don't do this, or it's you just mad now, you know, all of a sudden now, well, we ain't doing it no more.
Nope, you
like,
ain't getting none.
What happened? Like, what happened? What did I do? And it, like, we men suffer because of something that the children did. And we're like, how did this even happen? And now we're like trying to figure out, well, what we need to do. Like, y'all project y'all's anger at the man, at the husband or the father. and it
but
doesn't
you know
go
why?
towards that.
And I agree. I 100% agree, because when I think about like how overwhelmed,
just like you coming to me saying, I'm over you, I'm over the kids, I'm over child. And first I'm like, well, what child is this? Then I'm like, well, what have I done? And then I'm like, I know the kids have been crazy.
You are right, Dave. You are 100%. You're right. As I think women collectively, we do deflect our feelings of frustration and feelings of being overwhelmed on the man. And I'm going to tell you why. One, I'm going to acknowledge the fact that I do give the boys a bajillion chances before I implement some sort of some type of consequence or repercussion. So as women, I feel like we kind of bring those frustrations on ourselves, because men, they give them 2 chances. That's it. Go to bed, put the toys up. That's it. You done eating. You not getting 5 hours to eat. Because as women, we naturally are like, that's my baby, blah, blah, blah. And men are more boom, boom, boom. But I will say that it is not right for women to deflect it on the man or hold out on the cootie cat because we're mad. But I can say in that instance where it was like a breaking point for me is I was in my robe, y'all. James was fully dressed, shirt tucked in, belt on, bags packed, lunch boxes in the car, the things that he normally does, and I was still sweating and scrambling at 6:45 a.m. So I got frustrated because I knew he was about to walk out that door with that hot coffee that he drank black, because he's like, and I was still going to be in here dealing with them arguing and fussing and fighting and throwing stuff and giving me a hard time to strap them in their car seats. That's why I deflected it on you, because I was hating at the fact that he dressed and ready to go, and I'm in here having to courtesy wash my armpits and reapply deodorant because of the boys. But I acknowledge now, hindsight 2020, that I brought that on myself. And because James jumped in and he was so active in kind of changing the trajectory of our mornings, which I've definitely taken advantage of. I checked in on him a couple of days ago to see if he was ready to tag me in or whatever. I recognized that it was me. I wanted to get them dressed. I wanted to do all the things. And I didn't lean on my partner in the way that I needed to lean on him. And then because I got overwhelmed and frustrated, I took it out on the whole house, including the dog.
And I think it all goes back to, like, for men and women to communicate, where it's like, I think that, like I said, that post was a lot, because it was like, wow, that's good to know. And it's like, if more, like, I'm sure in more marriages, it's just like I said, men process things. When you're at your boiling point, we just see anger. We just see flames and anger. We don't see anything else you're saying, but it's like just that communication of, woo, this is a lot. Like, just saying, woo, this is a lot. It's like, oh, okay, but it's like, I think it's harder for mothers to say this is a lot because of what the mom guilt and all that stuff. But so it's like, I mean, it's like I said, is if you're getting to an overwhelming point, it's not even it's like getting to the overwhelming point. It's like you're frustrated, or just saying, hey, like, it's tough and all these, just whatever it is, before it gets there, can just help a whole lot of, like, understanding. Because, like I said, men are problem solvers. So when it's broad in general, it's either gonna go in the category of this made you happy, this made you sad, or this made you mad. And all we want is peace and happiness. It's either you happy, but if you're not happy, as long as it's peaceful in the house, that's fine. But if
you can be happy as long as it ain't disrupting the peace, ladies. Y'all heard that?
The pizza got messed up. It's tense, all these things. It's like I can't even relax.
And to that point, ladies, I want to say that it is very, very, very important to acknowledge, recognize, and understand that your partner is not responsible for your happiness. You are. Bree is responsible for ensuring that Bree is happy, and James is responsible for ensuring that James is happy. Anything outside of that is extra, which is why I agree with his statement. If I'm unhappy, but the house is peaceful, that's okay. Because it's not his responsibility to make me happy or figure out why I'm unhappy or what have you. That's my responsibility.
But if you're unhappy and the house is unpeaceful,
that's when we got a problem.
Now I'm going to try.
Now you ain't getting on it. You better figure out what's going on.
And that's what I like. That's the big thing is like I said, I mean, I go on Facebook and social media, Instagram, stuff like that, and I see, you know, especially Mother's Day coming up, and it's like, oh, it's tough to be a mom, and da 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 da, and blah blah blah, and all men understand the difference between being a mother and a father, like just from initiation.
Kids act so much different with their
well, I
than
mean,
they do with their daddy.
Initiation, like from carrying to all the stuff that happens with that. So I don't think any man is like, oh, that ain't nothing. I don't think any man, but it's just the communication is we have to understand, like, we know childbirth is hard and what happens after childbirth. But if it's after childbirth when you get to that crazy point, like, not talking about like the postpartum and whatever that
remember
is.
Postpartum can last a new science study,
but
I
mean,
postpartum can last up to 7 years. It's just
but don't get to the point where you're at postpartum of like ready to kill your husband to say, well, women go through postpartum, and it's like we're at that point we're like,
but some women don't recognize they're postpartum until they're at the point of ready to kill.
But what I'm saying, and like I said, I mean, that's different. I'm talking about like regular
the parts you can't control.
Regular post, not the real bad post. But I'm talking about like just hormones up and down and stuff like that. But saying like, hey, my hormones are up and down. And when they're stable, say your hormones are up and down.
Listen to the time restraints. Y'all better let that man know before your hormones go haywire that you feeling unstable.
But
that sounds crazy.
No, but I mean, all jokes aside, it's all about just communicating before you get to that crazy.
And I agree because
point.
I mean, like even with our example, you know, that happened about a month ago or so. I felt those feelings of frustration. I felt myself getting short with the boys. I felt myself not wanting to be intimate with my spouse. I felt myself, you know, just kind of going through the motions of life and not really enjoying the motions that I normally enjoy. Those were all red flags, and I did not speak up, and I definitely hold myself accountable for that. And it is important, especially if you have a partner that you can communicate with, a partner that does care about your feelings before their own. It is important to express those things. Like the key statement here is, I know that if I'm ever off balance, James is aware of it and he's gonna acknowledge it. But if I don't say nothing, he not gonna know. And I feel like as women, when we're with a man, we expect them to just know. Like there's been periods where I'm like, he should just know that I'm X, Y, and Z because I'm not doing X, Y, and Z, or I'm quiet, or I'm this, or I'm that. But that's such a gray area. You can't do that.
Is peace.
Yeah.
So if you and most women, I'm not. Well, I don't know. I know you, but I'll say like women can carry on peaceful and be like and be in like a tornado going on.
Yeah, that's it.
So I think it's like in our head. As a man, it's like if we come home,
everything's in order.
Cool. It's like, all right, Everything's good. And it's like,
you not withholding
like
the
I said, if I'm sitting upstairs and I'm getting dressed and my belt and I'm making my black coffee and she's like, singing a song, like they little routine. I'm like, all right, well, let me go to work. All right, babe.
And I'm like, I know he ain't about to walk out this door. My arm is sweating.
So we it's like for us, as long as everything's running, like it's not a problem. Like the train is still moving. When the train split or something like that, but see, it's like we also know about maintenance, like of a vehicle or a train. So it's like at the same time, like as a man, most men, and not just men, but you know what I'm saying is that when I see the engine light come on my car, I'm gonna go get an oil change. I'm not gonna just, once I see the engine light come on, I'm like, oh, oil change. Or a tire light, oh, we need a new tire. But if we don't see nothing, then it's going to be
y'all supposed to just know.
Then it's like, all right, well, the car is fine. Like everything. So it's like if you don't communicate anything.
The communication is the lights coming on in the car for the men.
Exactly. If the lights don't come on or nothing, it's like I'm still riding the car. But what happens is I'm riding the car and
every light comes on.
I'm getting like, now you just crazy. Like, is the car still good? What's going on?
Hold on, what that mean? Hold on, wait a minute.
I'm saying now is the car still good? Problem fix? Like it's like not maintenance. It's a problem. Like, do I have to replace?
Now you gotta check the engine, the tires, the alternator, the ignition.
Like now it's not even about like me getting an oil change is like, dang, I gotta get an oil change, but it's an oil change. Your car falling apart is like what is it?
How am I gonna go to work? How am I gonna pay
like
this bill?
That's a huge issue, and that's how we take it is you telling us communicating. It's like, oh yeah, easy, but coming when you're at your frustrating breaking point is like the car. It's like,
right.
Well, what is it? We need?
And I do think it's important to clarify that all women don't feel comfortable going to their significant other communicating because they don't know what their reaction is going to be. I'm here to tell you, one, I feel very comfortable communicating with James. I could tell him anything. Clearly, because I just told him a month ago I needed a break from him, the dog, and the kids. But if you don't feel comfortable communicating with your spouse or partner verbally, write them a note, write them a letter. Don't send a text because those can be misinterpreted. Texting is completely different than writing. I feel like if you take the time to write something down, it gives your partner time to process and then respond. Especially if you write them a letter and they take it to work and they read it in the car and they got all day to think about it or whatever. Y'all could talk about it at the end of the night. Communication is the key, okay?
And I think like just communicating though, being real, like not trying
black and white.
Not
don't
trying
sugarcoat
to have the motherhood pride with it, because I think what happens is
it's not motherhood pride, it's motherhood guilt.
Or guilt.
That you trying to
sometimes
avoid,
it's like the communication could be worded like, instead of just saying, hey, it's difficult for me to get LJ to listen. Instead of just saying that, it'll be, you getting ready for lunch and LJ, and now it's like, now I'm reading. So communicate.
Is the issue me or LJ?
Yeah, it's like communicate exactly what's happening.
Yeah.
And like I said, if you're not mad, we need to know you're not mad. Like you say, I'm overwhelmed. Like just say like, hey, Mom, I'm overwhelmed, and I'm spinning. And I know like with time, when you're married and stuff, you learn that about your partner. Yeah. But I just think too, for us under 10 years in marriage and stuff, it's helpful.
I agree, and I just think that women do carry a lot of mom guilt. We don't want to feel like we're sick of our kids or we need a break from our kids. But at the end of the day, that is the truth, raw and uncut. That is the just reality. We do need a moment to breathe, like without the kids. And that's nothing to feel guilty about. And I think because of the societal norms and trying to keep up with the Joneses or whatever, you do feel guilty, which is why it's easier to deflect that on your spouse. And as I've told a million people a million times, communication. It's just, I think boils down to communication.
Just saying you need
black and white transparency.
Like saying you need a break, not a break, but just saying like, hey, I want to spend time with, my girls, versus saying, well, you spent time with your boys. I need to. Now it's like, whoa. Like, a man is going to look at that as,
where is this even coming
what? From? Like, I did this, now you do this, versus just, like I said, I think it's the mom guilt particular, because men will admit, like, Justin, no, Justin's doing, like, no, Justin needs to go to bed. He's not eating tonight. And it's like, no, he'll be fine. He's not gonna, like, men, we know our kids are annoying. Like, we know our kids will do stuff. We'll die for our children. But at the same time, we're not gonna sit there and act like they these angels. We're gonna be like,
women are nurturers, y'all. Women
and
are
nurturers. That's just the biggest thing is, like, I think that Kevin Hart special years ago when he was talking about his son was in the ballpark and he was like, we look bad as a unit. Why is my son doing this? Because men, I guess naturally, like, we see our child for who they are and we love them, and regardless, but it's just like, we're not going to, they're going to get us, like, it's hard, but we're not going to let them run us to a point to where we're like,
and women are guilty of that, because women are naturally nurturers. We want to care, we want to coddle, we want to hold, we want to kiss, we want to see where the invisible boo-boo is, or the boo-boo that's 10 years old is. But like I said, women do need to be more intentional about, creating those boundaries, giving them 2 chances, and that's it. We need to be able to hold it down. Independent of the man.
Direct the energy towards the children.
Yeah, don't withhold from the husband because the kids is acting
up. The husband is now wondering. Like, I remember one time when I came back from football practice, and the house was shut down. Like, it was like closed. Like, I was almost like, am I in the right? And it was like, I knew, and I said, now as a man, you're in a weird spot because you're like, well, I guess I gotta be mad now too. Whatever's going on. Like, now you walking in the house, what was he doing? And now you're sitting there, fake mad, but you
don't even know what's going on.
If I'm not fake mad, now Bree gonna get mad at me. Like, if I'm not mad because you mad, then it's gonna be like, well, what are you happy for? So now it's like, I'm talking about that. I'm sitting at home like,
let's not act like it's only women that go through that, because one day I came home, y'all, and the house was eerily quiet, but most men leave every light in the house on. Every light in the house was on. I didn't hear the boys playing. I'm like, are they even home? I used the bathroom, came out, still silence. I went upstairs. James is pacing around with his Columbia winter coat still on. Justin's playing silently, and LJ's sitting in the room in the dark crying. And I'm like, what in the hell done happened in here? The boys showed out when they was out with James. James came home, shut it down, and I came home and felt like I was in trouble too. So when I came home, I was in trouble. I had to act like I was in trouble. I acknowledged James, and I went to sit down because he was upset. So it goes both ways. Let's not make it one-sided.
You're right, because I would, but I think what happens is, so when I speak for myself, when I deflect, now you're in, I don't deflect like, oh, we ain't gonna do nothing.
You need a break.
We need a break. But you may catch some backlash, we got any popcorn? Do we got any popcorn? When you see popcorn, now it's like you can't. Now I'm talking. So I will admit that can happen.
It does.
That can happen.
But it all boils down to effective communication. Like James could let me know the house was on lock before I got home.
Yeah.
Or whatever. But the thing is, the important part is
that's a good point. Yeah.
To learn from every situation, improve the communication with every situation. Learn your partner. Pay attention to their nonverbal behaviors so that they don't have to tell you everything. Yes, women think men should be mind readers most of the time. But if you just pay attention to your partner's nonverbal communication, their body language, how they're breathing, if they're sleeping a different way, if they're not eating their dinner tonight, whatever, you'll get your answer. Communication is key. And there are two types, verbal and nonverbal. Verbal is the most easiest to process, but there are instances when you just need to pay attention to the nonverbal and act accordingly.
And I think I will, Mother's Day coming up. Happy Mother's Day.
Thanks, babe.
And I think, but I will say as mothers, like, communicate. Because, I don't think any man is questioning the difference. Maybe some men that's on their own agenda, but most men realize being a mother, I'm not gonna say it's harder than being a father because that's making it it's
just a little more
but
complex.
It's way more different. We acknowledge we didn't have to birth them, we didn't have to carry them, we didn't have to nurse them. We didn't have, it's a lot of stuff that goes along with it. Men know that, and that's men aren't trying to compete and say nah, fatherhood is harder. We know that's why motherhood is New Year's Eve and father is Veterans Day. So Groundhog's Day.
Don't nobody know if the groundhog saw a shadow.
So I don't think men acknowledge that, but we. I think just in general, just like I said, and even if you don't want to tell your spouse directly, those little posts hey, I'm not mad, I'm overwhelmed, but just more communication so that men realize oh, she's not angry, or oh, my wife is, because we're not mind readers.
Yes, and the perfect example is, in my opinion, a man doesn't believe you're pregnant until they can see the belly. You could be 13 weeks with a flat stomach and it has not processed to them that you are pregnant because they don't see a bump. That is the narrative of life. You have to show them and explain to them what you are feeling, and what you can throw up 5 times with a flat stomach and this man still won't believe you pregnant. Okay? Communication is key. Men have to see it to believe it, okay?
Men are very visual, and it's just we're very fixed. We're not going to, and every man is different. Some men are emotional, but it's for the most part, I don't even think your most emotional man still can't compare to the most emotional woman.
Oh yeah.
So it's I just think it is just figuring out like I said, we all can learn from one another, and I think a lot of when I look, and then in our marriage, I think most marriages really like each other. But when you throw the kids in there, it's now you that was all right. That was just totally different. But I think that it is just understanding and being a team, because the world we live in now is different than what our parents
and that makes things a lot harder.
Men and women work. It's not men and women was working, then. But I do think there is a difference of the expectation of what, the man that, gender roles aren't as defined now, where back then it was but now it's a little different, and we, face different hurdles, because I think that our parents live close together. So, your cousin might have been your neighbor.
The support system.
Or your grandma might have been 2 miles, where now your grandma
5 states over
might be exactly. So it's we have to learn. We're more isolated, and we have to lean on each other.
Yeah.
And
which it's
learn.
beautiful, but it's also difficult. It is beautiful.
It is difficult.
But
then you got like COVID, you got daycares closing. This is a whole new era.
Yeah.
Nobody has
the
ever
daycare
experienced.
Can close whenever it feel like it, and you still gotta pay.
Schools close. I mean, now things are starting to normalize, but I just think that I think now is one of the. I don't want to disrespect any other generations, but I will say I think this is one of the toughest times to raise
Our
children.
parents wasn't paying what we pay now for child care.
Between inflation
and don't have a date night,
COVID, everything is everybody face their challenges in their generation, but I think like we're required to lean more on each other because both people are dealing with the same thing.
Right. I agree.
So it's just learning communication and like just saying like, I mean, even if you got a newborn, if you like, I don't want a nurse tonight, just say that.
I just listen, y'all. When Justin came around, he was 2 days old and I was pumping. I mean, we had shifts.
If you don't want to tell you don't want to tell the world you don't want a nurse, but you could at least tell your spouse, hey, I don't want a nurse tonight.
Right.
And it's like, all right, whatever.
Give him the Bible.
Whatever. But it's like, I just think it's all about communication.
I agree, babe. So, final remarks to close it out are whatever the correct word is. For women, I think it's important to elaborate your feelings and emotions effectively before you get to a boiling point to avoid potentially offending your spouse. Y'all are a team, work together, make it men need black and white. Don't get him no gray. Don't have them guessing or trying to figure it out. Give it to him black and white. Look, burnt out, your kids is fighting. I don't feel like dealing with it this morning. Can you drop them off? That's what they need to hear. I'm sure James did not want to hear that I needed a break from him, the kids, and the dog. He might have been okay if I just said the kids and the dog, but I included him in that. And for that, I apologize. But effective communication is key. Don't withhold the punani because you mad at the kids and taking it out on the man, because clearly that's important to the man. But communication is key, y'all. Don't forget it.
And I'll say, man, final words is, we just have to listen. And if there isn't communicate, I'll speak for myself. I don't know about if every man faces this, but everything isn't a problem-solving situation.
Facts.
And it's like everything doesn't have to be solved. Like me, I'm always like, okay, well, Bree's overwhelmed. It's because the walls are painted white. Maybe if we got blue walls with more green. Like, I'm just saying how my brain processes stuff. And overwhelmed can just mean that overwhelmed, which just means, oh, okay. I mean, like I said, helping out, but that's it. It stops there. Like, it doesn't mean like she's about to go down to a psych ward or she's burnt. Like, and also along with that, I will say, like, we have to communicate as well. Because we'll get burnt out, tired, exhausted. And as a man, sometimes you just push yourself to just keep going and going and going. But where you have to, I think for men and women, this doesn't mean you're weak to deal with toddlers. And I mean, I just left something at work where they were saying teenagers. I don't think it ever stopped. So once you have kids, it's always going to be something, and you're always going to have to lean on your partner. Because really,
questioning having a kid,
all you got is your partner. Because it's going to be the stuff I've heard from some of
the stuff we've experienced over the last 2 days.
I know stuff you hear about, like teenagers, and even like grown kids.
Yeah.
It's like you just never know. But all you got at the end of the day is your partner to figure it out with.
Lean in on.
Your kids selfish. They don't care. So it's just you gotta lean on your partner.
Yes.
Alright.
We finished our wine,
Yeah.
so we can't toast, but
Alright.
that's a wrap.